Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. May this be an offering to Sri Radha Krishna. Allow me to set the intentions for this live stream whilst we await our first guests to arrive. May this be an all-inclusive environment, open to everyone, for us to come together as fellow spiritual seekers, share uplifting sentiments, relate in one another's experiences, and embrace positivity. Hello, Gills. Hello, Estrella. Welcome. You both are amongst the first here. We shall be doing a question of the day and our daily reading shortly. But I trust that all those who are coming are as well as they can be, given whatever circumstances may be prevailing in their life. Hello, MJ. And hello, Chloe. Thank you. Right back to you too. And thank you, Lere, for your heart meet. Radhe Radhe. Good evening. Thank you, MJ, for your bear of roses. Hariom Tat Sat. Hello, Kotar. Hello, Angie. Happy to have you all here. I took a break from streaming the past few days, but I'm back today. Very happy to be here. So thank you for providing me this opportunity. An Apple user, you share that you've been feeling down. How can I flip it? Ride the wave. To go from down to up is a natural process. It takes time. Be patient and allow yourself the honor of the journey itself. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Dana. Kotar, you ask, did I see the solar eclipse? I was happily sleeping. It's funny, every time there's been a solar eclipse, I've been sleeping. And hello, Schrodinger's chat. Good to see you, Lily. And hello, Arthur. Now, my question of the day for you all is a rather straightforward one. Today I'm simply wondering, how do you like to express yourself? And you are certainly allowed multiple answers. There are no wrong ways to respond. Thank you. Now, Wakari Krasi for your hand hearts. Radhe Radhe. Music, says Arthur, such a great way to express yourself, isn't it? Both in the listening and the performing, and in the creation of such. Apple user, you share that you express yourself through random acts of kindness. Ah, how divine you are. And thank you, Saturnus. Now you also agree to that sentiment. Music and producing, those are just amazing ways, aren't they? Lily, you share that you definitely like to express yourself with colors, patterns, and the kindness of your heart. And you also love to create beautiful things to uplift yourself and others. What remarkable ways to express the cherishable soul that you are. Beautiful. Gizmo, you share that you don't know how to express yourself anymore. And that's quite alright. It's a learning process, that's for sure. Angie, you say, by taking care of others. How selfless. And Cinnamon, you say, by playing guitar. Wonderful. Thank you, Mermander. Happy to be here. You like to take care of plants and create terrariums or sing. I like that. The art of creating terrariums is very interesting. You get to be a little creator and architect, but of nature. One of the things I like about nature is that it seems to always look good. You know, humans, if our eye is a few centimeters to the right, suddenly something looks off. No pun intended. But in nature, if you take a tree and you move the whole tree a few centimeters, you wouldn't even notice. There's lots of wiggle room in nature to be. And thank you, John F., for your heart me. Hariom Tat Sat. Kotar, you share that you like to give your cats attention. They deserve it. I don't know what good karma they must have done in their past life, but it's so up there, you know? Just effortlessly attracts our attention, doesn't it? And Angie, you add to that taking care of all animals and your own first. I love that. Sacred serenity you share. Crooked trees, small trees, big trees are all beautiful. But when we look at humans, we begin to judge, right? Suddenly it has to be a certain way. Estrella, you ask, have I felt the energy of the eclipse? I don't know, I was sleeping. But I did have good dreams, so good vibes. And thank you, Matt, for your ice cream cone a moment ago. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Aunt Vicky, for your hand hearts. Jai Sita Ram. Mermander, you ask, how do you like to express yourself? It's a great question. I think laughter comes to mind. You know, when there's just so much joy, you can't keep it in. I like to laugh at things that aren't even funny. It's just what happens when you can't keep that bliss contained. It just comes out in the form of giggles. And then I have a hard time explaining what's so funny. People around me ask, what is it? Did I do something? No. Nothing's funny. Then why were you laughing? Because everything's funny. Thank you, Kills, for your heart me. Hariom Tat Sat. Now, I appreciate the question of the day today and all of your beautiful answers. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Now I have a reading for you from our daily reading. Today, I thought we'd crack open this lovely book. Where is it? The Teachings of Ramana Maharishi. I think I'll have to sit a little bit to the left so I'm not being covered by it. Here, I have it here. Here, we'll read the back first, and then we'll crack open the introduction. And it's a very direct book, so the introduction's pretty short. Here is the summary on the back. The renowned Indian sage Ramana Maharishi is beloved by Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, and Taoists alike for the inspirational power of his teachings, which transcend all religious differences. Here is a collection of Sri Ramana's instructions and discourses, culled from 3 works: Who Am I?, Spiritual Instructions, and Maharishi's Gospel. These teachings are arranged by topics such as work and renunciation, silence and solitude, peace and happiness, and the discipline of self-inquiry. Reading this book, presented in question and answer format, evokes the feeling of being with this outstanding teacher at one of his intimate teaching sessions. And that's right, there's a foreword by Carl Jung. Ramana Maharishi, from 1879 to 1950, was one of the greatest spiritual teachers of modern-day India. At the age of 17, he attained a profound experience of the true self. After years of silent seclusion, he finally began to reply to the questions put to him by spiritual seekers all over the world. Could you imagine that? Asking this guy spiritual questions, and he was just so blissed out, didn't feel the need to reply. Though he wrote little, his many conversations and verbal teachings were recorded by followers and have been published in India and the United States. Hello, the bearded mystic. You share that Ramana Maharishi is a great guru, quite literally. Maha, meaning great, Rishi, also very similar to guru. Great teacher. And Ramana, what does that mean? I think it's like splendid. So a splendid great teacher, that's his name. Alright, without further ado, let's crack open the preface. A gently indrawn breath, with no thought, can bring the ecstasy of total awareness beyond words. In these 3 books of answers to inquirers, Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi, without offending common sense, reason, or logic, has come as close as possible to saying the unsayable, and points the way, innumerable ways, for you to find the self and be. To understand the ultimate, experience must be intimate. Beyond that which you think is that which you are. Realizing this does not involve specific practices or attitudes other than understanding. No withdrawal is necessary. No change of present time, place, or condition. Only a change of viewpoint, which with you bring about yourself, for yourself. A recent letter from S.S. Cohen says, "Be" sums up the material life to compensate for it. Sorry, I skipped a sentence. B sums up the whole practical teaching of Bhagavan. There is nothing in the material life to compensate for it. Neither wealth, sex, art, science, nor any other ordeal. It is the greatest good, the bliss, and the truth absolute. Bhagavan found enlightenment for himself without a physical guru. In these books of questions, asked and answered, may you find your answer. This can be a trip to end all trips. Find out who you are, and you can't help but be. Know that you, immortal, are, and you have but to be. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. Peace, peace, peace. From Joe and Guinevere Miller. Now here's the foreword by Carl Jung. I don't think we'll read all of it in one sitting, but perhaps at the end of this live we can finish it. And then tomorrow we'll probably begin the questions and answers. So we'll just read a page or two from the foreword. Sri Ramana and his message to modern man. Sri Ramana is a true son of the Indian earth. He is genuine and, in addition to that, something quite phenomenal. In India, he is the whitest spot in a white space. What we find in the life and teachings of Sri Ramana is the purest of India, with its breath of the world liberated and liberating humanity. It is a chant of millennia. This melody is built upon a single great motif, which, in 1,000 colorful reflexes, rejuvenates itself within the Indian spirit, and the latest incarnation of which is Sri Ramana Maharishi himself. The identification of the self with God will strike the European as shocking. It is specifically Oriental realization as expressed by Sri Ramana's utterances. Psychology cannot contribute anything further to it, except the remark that it lies far beyond its scope to propose such a thing. However, it is clear to the Indian that the self, as spiritual source, is not different from God, and insofar as man abides in his self, he is not only contained in God, but is God himself. Sri Ramana is quite clear in this respect. The goal of Eastern practices is the same as that of Western mysticism. The focus is shifted from the I to the self, from man to God. This means that the I disappears in the self and the man in God. A similar effort is described in the Exercitia Spiritualia, in which the personal property, the I, subjugate to the highest possible degree to the possessorship of Christ. Sri Ramakrishna adopted the same position in regard to the self. Only with him, the dilemma between the I and the self comes a little more closely to the foreground. Sri Ramana declares unmistakably that the real purpose of spiritual practice is the dissolution of the I. Ramakrishna, however, shows a somewhat hesitating attitude in this respect, though he says, as long as the I sense lasts, so long are true knowledge, jnana, and liberation, mukti, impossible. Yet, he must acknowledge the fatal nature of ahamkara. He says, how very few can obtain this union, this samadhi, and free themselves from this I. It is very rarely possible. Talk as much as you want. Isolate yourself continuously. Still, this I will always return to you. Cut down the poplar tree today, and you will find tomorrow it forms new shoots. When you ultimately find that this I cannot be destroyed, let it remain as I, the servant. In relation to this concession, Sri Ramana is certainly the more radical. One more paragraph. The changing relations between these two quantities, the I and the self, represent a field of experience which the introspective consciousness of the East has explored to a degree almost unattainable by the Western human being. The philosophy of the East, which is so very different from ours, represents to us a highly valuable present, which, however, we must obtain in order to to possess. Sri Ramana's words once again sum up the principal things which the spirit of India has accumulated during thousands of years in contemplation of the inner self and the individual life and work of the Maharishi exemplifies once more the innermost striving of the Indian people to find the liberating original source. All right, I shall create a little dog here and pause our reading of the foreword by Carl Jung here. He has just a few more paragraphs to say, and then there is a biographical sketch, which we'll read later, and then finally, some very direct questioning and answering happens. But I thank you, my dear viewers, for tuning in to this beginning. I appreciate your listening. And thank you to those who sent a gift whilst I read. Allow me to extend my gratitude back to you now. Thank you, Angelique, for your heart me and hand hearts. Radhe, Radhe. Hello, Dansuela. And don't worry, Sky Guardian. I certainly will when it arrives. And thank you, G, for your trio of roses. Radhe, Radhe. It is not a very long book, as you can tell by its thickness. And John F., thank you for your pair of cheer-you-ups. Ryom Tat Sat. And thank you, Brilliant Genius, for your rose. Ryom Tat Sat. And thank you, Trainadora, for your quintet of roses too. Jai Sita Rama. Thank you, Lex, for your heart me. Ryom Tat Sat. And Dab Darker, thank you for your heart me too. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And hello, Kimmy. Thank you, G, for another heart me and rose too. Radhe, Radhe. And little wing Nico, thank you for your heart me and a friendship necklace. Ryom Tat Sat. And Kita, thank you for your tiny as well. Yippee! And Sacred Serenity, thank you for your octet of roses. Jai Sita Rama. I trust that whatever feelings may be arising in everyone at this time, know this to be a valid experience. You may acknowledge what is within you, what thoughts, emotions, sounds are in your room. This moment does not need to change in order for you to feel validated. Sky Guardian, you share that you want to send another book that you are in love with, but you're waiting for your friend to finish his PhD so he can sign it for me before you send it. That's very lovely of you. I see. The book is called In Love at Ease. Yes, that is wonderful. And Lindsay, you share that you saw the solar eclipse in totality for your first time. How wonderful is that, Lindsay? I'm sure it was a wonderful experience. Thank you for sharing. Claudia Sell, you ask, what is fear? Fear arises, in my experience, out of a passion for being alive. We love being alive, even though we beat ourselves up over how we might live our lives. If anyone tries to take your life away from you, you stand up and fight for it because there's something valuable there. I like Sadhguru's joke. Have you ever seen a dead guy? You go up to his ear and you say, "Hey, I have $1 million for you. I have a mansion, Rolls-Royce car, beautiful women." He's not interested. I have a whole lobster dinner, delicious chocolate, a cruise ship getaway, not interested. The only thing we have in life is life itself. And once that's taken out of you, nothing else becomes interesting. We want to live life to the fullest. When something threatens that, naturally a carefulness arises. And when that carefulness gets maybe a little too much attention, it develops into fearfulness. However, with the right knowledge, we can bring our attention to this fact that says, regardless of the circumstances that we have experienced, are experiencing, and will experience, nothing can take away the possibility of living life to its fullest, because that exists now. And as long as you are also here now, which you are, then this moment contains the whole of life. It will never go anywhere. This kind of knowledge can dismantle the fears which prevent us from living life fully. Always is there a way to reframe something into a positive. You could say, I am afraid of dying. Why? Because I want to live. Oh, well, that's a positive. So live then. If you want to live, live. Being alive doesn't mean you do this and don't do that. It means whatever you are doing in this moment, do it to the best of your abilities. Even if it's something small, like walking. Just pretend that each step you become an even better walker. Soon, you're a master walker. Every step is so efficient. Your gait, beautiful. You know where to step, how to step, what pressure to apply to each toe to give you maximum support. You will become the best walker in the universe. Thank you, Melinda, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, This Is My Show, for your autumn leaves. Jai Sita Ram. We are, at least in the northern hemisphere, no longer in autumn. But in the southern hemisphere, I suppose it is autumn, isn't it? And thank you, Audrey D, for your 15 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Zaldras, you share that you're feeling very lost at the moment. Do you have any advice on finding your purpose in life? I believe that the purpose of life is to live purposefully. That the purpose precedes action and not the other way around. Let purpose be the subject from which you perform, rather than the object which you are working towards. For example, consider the analogy of happiness. We think that in order to be happy, we first must make the right choices, get enough sleep, eat well, be physically healthy, etc. However, studies have consistently shown that it's the happy people which sleep well, eat the right amount, and have better immune responses and make better choices. We've put the cart before the horse. Happiness is not the goal. It is from where we can go and achieve higher things. So, start with an inner generation of happiness, and then let that dictate your future. Similarly, purpose is something we create as a sentiment within ourselves. We feel purposeful just by existing, and then we put that purpose into everything we do. Whether you're holding the door open for someone, whether you're slicing a banana up, whether you're washing a window, there is a purpose behind the action, not in front, you see. Thank you, this is my show, for your flowers. Radhe, Radhe. And John, did I thank you for your pair of tiny dinies? I will do a yippee if not, anyway. Yippee! Mermander, you are asking, how do you balance attachment with relationships with partners, lovers, pets, family, etc.? Sometimes you might feel like non-attachment might make you perform as a worse friend, as a worse brother, lover, mother, or significant other. But here's an adage for you. Consider, for example, the best neurosurgeon in town. A child is wheeled into the operating room, and before the surgeon is his own son. You might think, wow, what a great coincidence. Because who better to operate on than your own son? And who better to do the operation than his own father? But actually, that's about the worst person that could do the operation. Why? Because that attachment will cloud their judgment, and there'll be constant worries about, should I do an incision here or should I not? Oh my goodness, is this going to cost my son's life and my own relationship with him? It's actually better for someone else to do the surgery because there's no attachment there. In this way, a bit of non-attachment in our relationships can actually help us perform better. It doesn't mean that we are emotionally blind, that we don't consider their feelings, that we're not enthusiastic with them. You can do all those things. What it means to be non-attached is that whether something good happens or bad happens, you remain peaceful within. That's all it means. It means you don't give your power away for your peace to be determined by circumstance out of your control. That's all. And thank you, Jacob Rostek, for your rose, your GG, your cloud bread, your ice cream cone, a ginger man, and 2 popcorns, and a whole galaxy. Wow. Radhe, Radhe. You always bless me when you come in here. Thank you, my friend, and I trust you are well. And thank you, Sacred Serenity, for your octet of roses too. It does take a lot of practice, Chloe. But I hope you enjoy the process. It is not about the result. It is about the process. It's not about the product. It's about being a better processor. And thank you, Audrey D, for your quintet of roses and a finger heart. Radhe, Radhe. And hello, Charlie. Thank you. Thank you for your rose as well. Life is treating you pretty well, says Jacob. You got a house with your partner. Oh, congratulations. In this day and age, count yourself very fortunate. What a blessing that is. And thank you for sharing with us. And thank you, John F., for your heart. Oriom Tat Sat. And hello, Chloe. You thought you'd just stop by before bed? Well, Chloe Evans, I wish you the most meaningful dreams and restful sleep when you do get there. Stop by before bed? Well, Chloe Evans, I wish you the most meaningful dreams and restful sleep when you do get there. The internet disconnected me for a second. That's quite alright. Do let me know when my connection has returned, so I can be faithfully in service to you. I think it glitched when I was saying a yippee to Lily, but it wasn't good enough, I guess. So I'll thank you again for your trio of tiny dinies, Lily. Yippee! And thank you, Chloe, for your 11 roses. Oriom Tat Sat. And Nunya, thank you for your heart meme. Zaldras, you ask, do you think humans will ever grow beyond war and greed? Now, when we look at humanity from a spiritual perspective, and it's a great question, by the way, there are many different life forms who have reached the level of attaining a human body. These animalistic souls naturally have some pent-up aggression that they let out on others. In this evolution of souls, which is ongoing, there will always be some conflict arising. In addition to that conflict comes opportunities for service. Because of the suffering that goes along with it, that provides the rest of us with the opportunity to be a little bit more selfless, donate where we can, be emotional supports for those who need, and if you can, fight for what you want to stand up for. All of these things can actually benefit us in the way of providing us opportunities for our own growth. So although it may seem like this earthly plane is a battleground, perhaps it is like that for a kind of reason, as it allows us to expand our comfort zones and help out where it is needed. It is not that the world needs our help, it's that we need to help the world. The need is within us to purify our own sense of self. Giving allows us to do that. Thank you, Judy Booty, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Melinda, you share a win for you, that you stood up for your boundaries, and it was so easy. It's funny how it works like that. Oftentimes the difficulty is in our head, and then once we actually do it, we realize that it's a lot easier than we made it out to be ourselves. Hello, Alienated. You share you're here for another day, brother. And what a great day it is. Happy to have you here. And thank you, Nanya, for your another additional heart me and team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Jacob, for another rose, finger heart, fire, disco love, a rose, and a hat and mustache. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you. Thank you, Lily, for your disco love too. And thank you, Linda, for your 35 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jacob, you share that my lives are always so positive and empowering. I am happy that you get that from it. I believe that positivity is underrated. Also overstated. Of course, we all say stay positive, be positive. We all say it. But practicing it? Now that is where the benefit comes in. You know, when I was really suffering from my own anxiety, eventually the thought came to me, I might as well put my best effort into staying positive when it's the least I could do. And thank you, Vivian, for your paper crane. Radhe, Radhe. And Audrey D, thank you for your 20 roses. Jai Sita Ram. You share that you deal so much with anxiety, SFQ. That reminds me. I recorded a special video today, which I will upload as soon as I'm done these, doing this live. I did a 30-minute video talking you down from an anxiety attack, and that'll be on my ASMR YouTube channel. I think it goes nicely there since it's relaxing, affirming. One of my lovely viewers recommended to me that I make such a video. And so we talked through many different tips and tricks from a practical perspective all the way to a spiritual perspective. And hopefully by the end of it, you'll be feeling not just peaceful, but maybe even blissful. And I am hoping that with your help, maybe that video can go to the people that need it most. Because I certainly know what it feels like to experience anxiety, and my goodness, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. That's for sure. And thank you, Mills, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you, Nunya, for your pair of team bracelets. And the Paper Queen, thank you for your flowers. Jai Sita Rama. And Enchanted by Hecate, thank you for your rose. And salutations to the Triple Moon Goddess. Thank you for another rose as well. Radhe, Radhe. Alienated, you share. I seem to be my own worst enemy. Yeah. It's good that it works out that way, because that means it's in our power to befriend our enemy. It's not always possible when your enemy is someone else. No matter how hard you try to be good, some people just don't like you. However, when the enemy is within ourselves, this is good news, because something can be done. Love and light back to you, Aquarius lady. I hope you know that your garden gnome is on its way to you. I'm happy that you enjoy the ASMR channel 31 Planes. I am delighted to share the feelings of relaxation and affirmation. They are much needed. And yes, I love Avatar. Yes, FQ, if you are asking about The Last Airbender. And the sequel, which I am forgetting the name of. The Legend of Korra. I enjoyed that one too. Very well written and so many spiritual lessons. Thank you, Lily, for your tree of disco loves. Radhe, Radhe. Wayne Power, you share that you started Skyrim, and it's kicking your ass. That's awesome. It's always good to expand our comfort zone and take on new challenges. Thank you, Lola Cherry, for your tiny yippee and 31 planes of existence. Thank you for your lock and key. Hariom Tat Sat. And Nunya, thank you for your tiny as well. Yahoo! Ollie, you are wondering, what's those two words you say while rolling your R's? Radhe, Radhe. It refers to Radha. She's lovely. I mean, look at her in this depiction of her. She represents the divine feminine, the triple Shakti of this universe. That is creation, individual consciousness, and the duality that spans them. We say that the source is masculine. For some reason, in all these scriptures, God prefers the he, him pronouns. Why is this? Well, it's only a mystery relative to his other half. That is the divine feminine. What came from the source. All this universal splendor. She is the divine feminine. And it still prevails in English too in little ways. Calling Mother Nature or the motherland, we refer to the creation as a she. And she is depicted here by the name of Radha. And so, Radhe, Radhe refers to her as a salutation to the Divine Feminine. And thank you, P. Flowmatics, for your quintets of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Adri D, you ask, Yam, how can one stop being an extreme overthinker? Naturally, it's the duty of the mind to think, and it does that job sometimes too well. Our mind generates thoughts of service, and service towards where you associate. If you associate strongly with your family, naturally your thoughts are going to be about them. How can I take care of them? How is my mother doing? Should I have said this to my sister? I wonder if I could add anything of value to their life at this time. If your sense of self is in money, your thoughts are all going to be about how to serve that money, how to serve that bank account. How can I make the numbers increase? And how can I minimize their decrease? What can I do to get a better salary, to get a raise? Our mind will be geared towards that. So if you want to shift the way that your thoughts are going towards, we need to shift our sense of self. Oftentimes, an unstable sense of self can lead to contradicting thoughts. Contradiction is a natural consequence of existing. So you're never going to eliminate all the contradiction from your mind. You have to allow room for some contradiction. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself insane. But if you do want just a little edge over your mind, having a stable sense of self can be hugely impactful, and that is always accessible to you. Having a stable sense of self means withdraw your sense of self from something you don't control. For example, if our sense of self-worth is in the words of others, well, that's a gamble. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying every now and then someone's gonna say something that offends you. So it's important not to take these kinds of external identifications too seriously and withdraw our sense of self into our spirit soul. Know yourself to be this, the immortal consciousness that you are. That knowledge serves as the foundation to keep your mind forward, looking upward, directed in the service of others and seeing the divine within everything, including yourself. Naturally, the conflicts that arise in the mind will subside by 90% simply by shifting your sense of self from something that is defined by the world to something that's within you. This is the spiritual journey in a nutshell. And it takes a long, long time, so no rush. Thank you, BG, for your rose, your balloons, and your flowers too. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, G, for your rose too. Hariom Tat Sat. You're very welcome, Audrey. If you found any words of wisdom in that, the wisdom is inside of you. And you are only able to relate with the profundity of your own experience. So well done on your part. User 498, you ask, Yam, where did you get your yogic training? From pain. from surmounting difficult experiences. Where else does wisdom come, if not from adversity? To become a good problem solver, simply tackle more problems. Someone who's never lived with a problem in their life knows nothing. So don't be afraid of the challenges in your life, because they will teach you so much. Agro, you are also wondering, what does Radhe mean? It means, oh bliss. Oh bliss giver, even. There are many faculties of our experience. Our adrenal glands, they secrete epinephrine to engage the fight or flight response. Our gallbladder secretes various enzymes to break down certain classes of molecules. Radha, she is the gland of bliss. Not a physical organ, but a spiritual one. And simply by invoking her name, bliss may be bestowed. Swords in class emoji, you ask, welcome back for reality. What do you talk about on these lives? Generally, whatever you guys bring up, geared towards spiritual progression, general mental upliftment, and a deepening in understanding of consciousness and our role in relation to the universe. So very general, very broad. I speak from experience and also from studying various people who I look up to that also share similar questions. And thank you, Lumi, for your disco love. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Hannah, for your heart me and finger heart. Jai Sita Rama. And thank you, Chris, for your rose too. And Nunya, thank you for your fire. Sid and Nancy, you ask, do you think Jesus was Buddhist? That reminds me of an anime where Jesus and the Buddha are roommates. And my goodness, what an amazing anime that is. I recommend people watch it. People who really study religion with an open heart come to understand that there is a kind of unity that you can find if you allow yourself to see past the surface level differences. Because no doubt, a Christian lives a very different life than a Buddhist, and vice versa. So it might be surprising to know that the truth that is really at the heart of both religions is actually pretty similar. I would say that if Jesus were alive today, he would love the Buddhists. Of course, he would love everyone, but I'm sure he would have an affliction towards the Buddhists. They carry the message of ahimsa, non-violence, and selfless service for others. These are virtues that the Christ certainly extolled. Now, do I remember the name of this anime? Asks Gregor. I am sure that there are not many animes where Jesus and Buddha are roommates, so if you just Google something like that, you'll find it. But I don't remember the exact name myself. And thank you, it's me, Jessica, for your tiny and your hat and mustache and pair of roses. Yippee! And Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Chris, for your rose, and Nunya for your fire. Ryom Tad Sat. And Blue Jay, thank you for your rose. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And G, thank you for your pair of roses. Ryom Tat Sat. And Strong Hammer, thank you for your rose too. Lucino, you ask, are Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift queens? Many people certainly look up to them with a similar kind of reverence. And I am sure that if either of them asked their followers to call them Your Majesty, that many of them would not question and greet them as such. But they certainly inspire passion in many people. And that passion is something that gets a lot of people out of bed, gets people out of heartbreak. And that's a very real force that these women carry and convey. And so we have to appreciate that. And out of respect, I think it is safe to treat them a little like royalty. Not too much though. Don't want to inflate their egos. Thank you, Dan Hao Yu, for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. Simone, you ask, Yam, when you meditate? Sorry, when do you meditate? I think there is some grammar here that I'm not getting. When do you meditate points to a particular divine form. I like to meditate on serving Radha. She is the divine feminine. Why her? Because she is the greatest devotee of Krishna. See, I'm actually devoted to Krishna. But the problem is, I can't see myself as a devotee to him compared to his beloved Radha. You know, consider, for example, having a crush on someone, but they are happily married to someone else. It would almost take away from their love to try to be better than who they are married to. So if I really love them and they really love their partner, then I should be helping their partner love them even more. This is an even more kind of pure love that's even sweeter. So, to truly love Krishna, I must give my love to Radha. To truly appreciate the masculine, we must appreciate the feminine. In other words. So I like to do Rupa Dhyan and imagine that I'm squishing her toes, washing her feet, drying them off with a cloth, Yeah, things like that. These kinds of things make me happy. She is always on her feet dancing from the flute music that Krishna extols. It must get tiring on her feet, you know. I want her to be a better dancer for Krishna. So I'll happily massage them. Hello, Dean Dude. Happy to have you here. Much love to you too. And thank you, Nunya, for your cloud bread. Jai Sita Ram. Yes, you are welcome to ask questions. HJS and Kona Girl, thank you for your hanging lights. Hari Om Tat Sat. Gregor, you share that flute music, they say, wind instruments, are some of the holiest. It is very light, melodious, and sweet. Many instruments require some contact, a hitting together of two parts, like the drumstick on the drum, like the hammer on the piano, like the guitar pick against the string. But wind instruments, they are a little more ethereal. They arise simply from the resonance that is created by air pressure alone. No need for any contact. Their sounds are continuous. This is certainly not so different than the qualities that we see in the divine. The divine is also beyond any kind of sharp impact in our life. There is no physical touch required to experience it. There is just a natural kind of resonance that exists pervading this universe. That sound, that feeling of divinity is continuous. It may change, but what is changeless is what continues. And that's true, Gregor. You also have to put your life force, your breath into it. Thank you, Southern Sassy Sadie, for your rose. Almost a tongue twister. Radhe. And Audrey D, thank you for another quintet of roses from you. Jai Sita Ram. Thank you, Lily, for your quartet of tiny dinies. Yippee! Yippee! And Hannah, thank you for your sushi. Jai Sita Ram. Rockstar, yes, you ask, how to get rid of a drug addiction? Could you share some advice, please? I would be honored to. Naturally, we see it as something that we need to remove from our life. However, looking at it from this perspective just makes it that much more difficult, because all of the things that we are engaging or are fulfilling during the habit itself will have to be engaged in something else if it were to leave us. So a more practical way to look at an addiction is how we can engage the same parts of ourselves in something different. That way, it's less about removing something as it is changing the way we get something. what we get remains the same. Ultimately, our mind, our brain, it craves neurotransmitters such as dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and other endorphins. All of these things can be increased by external substance or various kinds of coping mechanisms, healthy and unhealthy. However, all of them can also be influenced simply by our lifestyle choices. If you start living purposefully, deepen your connections with people, increase the vibrancy upon which you live your life, you'll find that naturally the vices that you used to cling to, they fall away by their there is no need to try to minimize the negative when we can simply maximize the positive, and then they fall out. You don't have to try to eliminate a part of yourself which will naturally become better simply through the harboring of something different. So practically, for example, I used to be addicted to nicotine. I would get it through vaping. And at some point, naturally, I didn't want to be dependent on that for the dopamine rush anymore. So I started to tell myself, the self-talk is very important. What we tell ourselves is vital. If we tell ourselves, I'm never going to kick this, that I really do feel better when I'm using this, we are only increasing our attachment to it. So change the self-talk. Step 1. I do have the ability to befriend this side of me. My happiness is found in someplace else. And perhaps the funniest thing happened as I started to deny the mind from taking a hit. I started to enjoy the denial as my very own source of dopamine. It started to feel good that I was refusing to feel good. Just like how if you go to the gym, once it starts hurting, it literally, physically speaking, does not feel good. But on a higher level, it starts to feel good that it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Because that means you're growing. Literally, your muscles are increasing in their strength. Of course, this process happens over 48 hours, but you know what I mean. Likewise, in the moment, it seems like something is negative that's happening to us. We feel like there is this resistance, and that resistance is painful. But that pain is actually a sign that we are improving. Pardon me. It is a sign that we are increasing our willpower. And every time that we deny, or at the very least delay the mind's gratification, we become even better disciples. See, I use that word very particularly. Discipline and disciple, they come from the same etymology. You can't be a disciple of the universe without discipline. And simply by discipline, we become a disciple of life. But all the best wishes to you and everyone who is working on befriending their addictions. It requires a lot of effort, but if that inspires you, use whatever inspiration it takes to bring your mind to something higher. See, Baron, you ask. Your sister just graduated from art pedagogy. Do you have good advice for her? How exciting is that? Just as we decorate this outer world with art, from the minute to the macroscopic, encourage her to decorate the inner world with good thoughts, affirmations, and beautiful sentiments. May she find the greatest source of art within herself, as herself. Starfire, you ask, do you believe in other dimensions? Like the nether or the end? In Minecraft, we call a dimension what is a plane of existence, or actually a space of existence. It's funny. If you have two dimensions and they come together, that creates a plane. And then if you take a plane and another dimension, then that's a space. Yet we refer to spaces as dimensions or planes, but never for what they are. I digress. That's a pedantic note on the difference between dimension, plane, and space. But I understand your question, and who can know what is beyond our experience? This is always up to speculation, and it can either overwhelm you or inspire you. The choice is yours. I hope that you find in the mystery of what's outside this moment to be an endless book of possibilities. And that possibility means eternal expansion for your soul. When there is so much we don't know, so many things we are not doing, we could look at that from the perspective of being small, being not enough. But that same exact thing could instead be looked at as a reason for eternal growth, for always becoming. We just have to look at it differently today. And I like the way user 389 puts it. Embrace the mystery. Right? You know, as children, we didn't know how the world works. Yet, we didn't feel the need to know. You don't have to know to be happy. For some reason, as adults, we feel like, or adolescents, we feel like, I have to know. What is the nature of this reality? As if our happiness depended on it. The good news is it doesn't. Rockstar, you are also wondering, what do I think happens when someone passes away? I think that those that loved them will become very sad. And in that sadness, there will be a reflection of the preciousness of the time they had. But it's a funny word. Pass away. I guess that's 2 words. I was thinking about Keanu. Very good Doom Knight. Pass away. They leave. Even though their body is here, we say that they are gone. It's important to know that we are not our body. They have been called to the action somewhere else in the universe. What energyless energy that they are has been called into action somewhere else. And they took the call subconsciously. Yes, it is time. Being a witness of life means that you are separate from it. If you watch a car drive by, that means you're not the car. Similarly, all that we can observe, we observe because there is some gap between the observer and the observed. This means that whatever happens in life, the essence of what you are, that is unaffected. Just as Bhagavad Gita explains, Krishna says to Arjuna that fire cannot burn you, water cannot wet you, wind cannot dry you. These things may happen to your body, and other mental consequences may appear to your mind. But you are formless, invisible, unattached. It cannot take birth, nor does it die. Knowing this to be such, you ought not to grieve. And Linda, you ask, do you think we keep our same personality, or we are just conscientiousness? Consciousness. Personalities do change. That is the nature of a personality. People grow. If they didn't grow, they'd have no personality. Ask any mother. Was your child born with a personality? Oh yes, they'll say. Definitely. Inside the womb, they already had a personality. Kicking during country music and remaining silent during pop music. They clearly had a preference. Personalities do transcend birth and death. And they also change. Thank you, Lauren, for your pair of roses, your popcorn, and a quartet of tiny tinies. Yippee! Thank you. And thank you, Astra, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. Lauren, you are wondering what my accent is? You have reminded me. I should put a nice banner up somewhere about my frequently asked questions. If you're ever curious about some of the things that are often asked, in my bio, there's a link tree, and if you click on that link, it'll expand into many links. The last one is my FAQ, my frequently asked questions, and there's a little section there on why I speak the way I do. Truthfully, I don't know, but I have some ideas. For example, I listen to a lot of Indian gurus, and there seems to be an effectiveness of talking like this while explaining a spiritual topic. If I talk really fast, it might sound nice, but you don't really retain anything from it. I did not sound like this when I was younger. In fact, I don't think you could make out much of what I said when I was younger. I was surprised listening to old recordings of me talk. Had my parents even understood what I said? Kona girl, you ask a great question. If someone has lied about me and another believes it, do I let it go or confront them with truth? That's a difficult one, isn't it? Well, in my own experience, naturally, people, for example, you may see in my comment section here, people say the weirdest things on my behalf that aren't true. People also say a lot of things which are true. And some people believe it, some people don't believe it. It's not my job to convince everybody who I am. I don't even know who I am. Of course, I want to help others. But if by helping, I'm put in a position where people don't accept my help, that's not something I can control. I can try to tell them, I'm not your enemy. I'm only here to support you. If they listen to that or not is their choice. And thank you, Sacred Serenity, for your octet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Blixie, you share. I'm gonna ask again. Why are cats so sacred? It's an important question. Yes, their energy feels so pure. And that is the ocean of bliss that they are. Cats are causelessly merciful. They're so lovely that they even know that their presence increases the value of your time. Cats start purring, allow you to pet them, because they know that you petting them makes you feel good. Isn't that weird? You could be sobbing and they just know you're having a hard time. So, does the cat come up and start petting you? Other animals seem to do that. Human comes up and starts petting your back or your hair. Cats, they come up and say, hey, I see you're feeling upset. Can you pet me? And so we go, okay. We start petting them. And then 5 minutes goes by. We're feeling better. How does that work? This is called the creation of seva, of service. Cats do it excellently. They know, intuitively, that to be happy means to be engaged in something purposeful. Petting a cat is very purposeful. Feeling fulfilled is to be selfless. And so here they are, giving us an opportunity for service. As we engage in that service, we start feeling better. That is why some of the best treatments for depression involve getting the depressed person to help others. Which is funny when you put it that way, because they are the ones in need of help. And indeed, they are the true receivers in helping others, because that allows them to feel a kind of meaningfulness in their life. And that meaningfulness comes from serving others. Thank you, TD, for your 10 roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Ragnhildr, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. And hello, Dylan. I appreciate you asking. Yes, I can affirm you. Everything has been alright, but I'm very grateful for your tender care. Corin, you share that you're trying to find peace after narcissistic abuse. That's tricky, isn't it? We are left with scars that may not be physical, but emotional. Unlearning is often that much more difficult than learning. Ultimately, the goal is not to be healed, past tense. The goal is to be healing, present tense. Bailey Boo, you shared that you felt bliss today during the eclipse today. The energy was beautiful and breathtaking. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Bailey. I felt a little bit of what you felt just on hearing that. That's nice. Alan, you ask such a beautiful question. How to repair the damage I have made to people? The best thing we can do for others, is become a better person for them. For example, what your friends and family, what they need is having a wiser friend, a stronger friend, a more empathetic friend. Notice that all of those things happen when you focus on yourself. So to be a better friend means to be a better you. That way, it's less about fixing what you have done in your past as it is working on yourself in the present. And thank you, Michelle, for your heart meet and for your team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. Ah, I love your realization, Steve. Is your soul a surfboard to your past? That's nice. Very poetic. Nobody? You ask. How can I stop being lazy? Well, the answer lies in your username. Become nobody. We are so focused on making the body feel good. Sometimes we call lazy people couch potatoes. See, what couches do is they dull our senses. They're so soft. I'm sitting on one right now. The funny thing about the Freudian slip, that is, making the body feel good, is that the body is sometimes referred to as the field. In Sanskrit, the kshetra, the field. When we focus on sense gratification, we dull the senses, and the intellect, therefore, is impeded in its ability to choose from truly gratifying experiences. When we feel like we are the body, then our mind gets geared towards the service of the body alone. We want the body to feel good. We want our eyes to see nice things. We want our ears to hear beautiful things. We want our nose to smell good things. We want our tongue to taste good things. This is when we are the body. To be nobody, this means bring your sense of self a little more inward. See yourself not as the body, but as a soul of the universe. And as a soul of the universe, it is your duty to help this show. And it becomes energizing to do so. Simply by shifting this sense of self. Even picking up a piece of garbage from the ground becomes so rewarding. When you feel like you are doing everything in the service of not just your body, but the universal body. Lily, you share. Do you think swear words can be a healthy way of self-expression? Part 1. And part 2 is, but not directed at people, of course. Words are like canvases that are shaped in different ways, but ultimately it is up to us what colors we use to paint them. A blank canvas, one that is two-dimensional, is very vague. It doesn't inspire anything in particular. People can paint a portrait, a landscape, architecture, or something more abstract. But if you were painting on a birdhouse, even if the birdhouse is the same color originally as your blank canvas, the shape of it may inspire certain things more than others. For example, it may inspire little paintings of birds or other things that remind you of the shape that it invokes as a birdhouse. If you're painting on a mug, you might want to paint something about how you feel when you're drinking coffee, or a blank bookmark might inspire different things. Even though they're all blank originally, the shape that it is in does inspire some meaning more so in some areas than another. Circling back to your original question, words are ultimately blank, but they are not shapeless. They have a form to them. They inspire some meanings more than other. We tend to associate swear words with hurting others because they have a very spiky kind of shape to them. And something that is sharp can be used to hurt people. But sharp things can also be used to do a lot more. You can use a knife to chop up your vegetables and have a nice salad. Now that's a healthy thing to do. It's the meaning that we give these vehicles of expression that matter. We also must understand that how the words are to be received by others also is up to their experience as well, and their relationship with you. If they're an open person, or at the very least have an open connection with you, then I'm sure your friends won't mind if you use such words around them, because they won't make any assumptions about how you mean. So when it is with yourself, then of course, the words you use with yourself, you are free to use them as you wish. Since the words themselves don't objectively mean anything, as long as we are cautious how we use them with others. That is what I would say. Thank you, Giuliano, for your rose ice cream cone, cloud bread, and a TikTok. The Giuliano specialty. Radhe. And welcome, Laura. Alan, you ask, how do I know if I'm on the right path in my life? Now, I'll tell you a story. My mother went up island. We live on an island, and she went up it. It's a big island, for a little vacation. And she loves hiking. She was on a hiking trail. She wasn't the only person on this hiking trail for vacation. She saw this couple approaching her, and of course, turns out to be Mark Zuckerberg. And certainly you don't expect to find Mark Zuckerberg on the hiking trail, but he ended up asking my mother which way to the beach. And this is a funny question to ask if you live on an island, because if you just keep going in any direction, you'll reach the ocean. So my mother could have just said yes and kept walking. Likewise, it's not the path that you are on that is right or wrong. It's your determination to stick to it. You will reach your goal. Similarly, we are on an island surrounded by bliss. A material island. We call this physical universe. If you just travel in any direction and stick to it, whatever path you're on, whether you're a carpenter, whether you like to crochet, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Buddhist, whether you're a scientist, it doesn't matter what you are doing in your life. If you just keep going with it, you'll reach the goal. The ocean of bliss is all around us. And I love the way you put that, Laura. It's how you choose to be on the path. Well said. You're very welcome, Hulk's yellow teeth. Lebani, home, you share a very interesting idea. You share that you think that people dismiss violent media as unsuitable, when sometimes it can have a really powerful commentary on the world and society. That's a beautiful point, and I see the truth in that. It reminds me of what a Buddhist nun said about opening yourself up to life's beauty, as well as ugliness. When we make room for it all, then we can really have a full experience. And that Buddhist nun in particular was Pema Chödrön. Why don't we crack open this book of hers? See what more she has to say. I seem to always open to this one. It's a good one, but she has many other words that are worthy of being read. We open to number 30, Overcoming Unworthiness. Remind yourself, in whatever way is personally meaningful, that it is not in your best interest to reinforce thoughts and feelings of unworthiness, even if you've already taken the bait and feel the familiar pull of self-denigration. Marshal your intelligence, courage, and humor in order to turn the tide. Ask yourself, do I want to strengthen what I'm feeling right now? Do I want to cut myself off from my basic goodness? Remind yourself that your fundamental nature is unconditionally open and free. Overcoming unworthiness. Having too much pride is considered a sin. And so being humble is a virtue. But feeling unworthy is different from being humble, because unworthiness means you lack faith in the causeless mercy that is the source of life. One of the greatest blessings that there is the fact that regardless of who you are, if you are still on this planet, you are allowed to be here by the universe. You know, a lightning bolt hasn't come from the sky and struck you down. The universe is full of acknowledgement of your existence and all of your various defects, and still, an asteroid doesn't come and wipe you off the face of the planet. Your heart doesn't stop beating. You continue to be here in the allowance of the present moment, knowing this to be such. You are worthy. And thank you, Noor of Strange Things, for your disco love. Radhe, Radhe. You know, I think there are nothing but strange things. Everything has a kind of strangeness to it. And I love that. And thank you, Milagro, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Ragnhildur, you ask for any advice on how to live the best life with chronic physical pain. Bodies are beautiful. They can also suck sometimes. The feeling of pain may come in waves. And we all know our own baseline where we need to focus on not overextenuating ourselves and windows of opportunity. It's within those windows of opportunity that you may strive for expanding your comfort zone. When you are overextenuated, rest. Take care of yourself physically. And when you have a moment to take on something new, give that your full attention. As I get older, my body starts to hurt more. But then I think, I got into even more accidents physically as a child than I do now. I was always falling down, scraping my knee, bruising myself. Physically, I should have been in a lot more pain as a child than I am now. Yet, when you look back on your childhood, you often don't think about the pain. This is not so surprising. Children aren't as identified with their bodies. They are bubbles of energy that expand well past the confines of their flesh and bones. They are so involved in everything that they're doing, they forget about their stomach ache. They forget that they hurt their leg. To the parents' dismay, "Oh, Jordan, you know the doctor said you broke your toe. Why were you playing soccer? Doesn't it hurt now?" "Yes, Mommy." "Then why?" "I really wanted to play." So, I don't think it's that as we get older, our body gets more hurt. It's that as we get older, we seem to care a lot more about not feeling hurt. But as a child, we didn't let that get the best of us. And that possibility is always there. Thank you, Marifer Delgado Cruz. Thank you for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, user 623, for your 4 tiny dinies. Yippee! Leah, you share that You thought I was the Mona Lisa for a second, John. That's awesome. Thank you, Sacred Serenity. For your octet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Guy Prince Music, you ask, what are you like offline? I am, to the dismay of everyone around me, I feel bad sometimes because there is a sincerity about all the topics that we discussed during my live stream. And so there is a seriousness to the quality of the words which I use. Off live, it is like I've used up all my seriousness, and so I speak nothing but things that don't make any sense. It's like I've used up all my energy in being serious that I'm so unserious off camera. I was thinking for like 20 minutes during my ride home with my friend and sister. We went to get ice cream, and I was just talking about all the various ways we could change the colors of a traffic light if we went there in the middle of the night and took all the bulbs out. And I was going on and on about, wouldn't it be funny if it went green, then yellow, and then blue? Could you imagine that? You're driving, it's a green light. Oh, it's yellow, I gotta slow down. Suddenly it's blue. What would you do? No one in the car seemed interested but me. I loved this idea. Or I thought, what if we go green, yellow, and then green again? Okay, it's go, I'm driving. Yellow, I should slow down. Green again? Do I speed up? What? I think I had about 20 minutes of fun thinking about the humor behind different light combinations at a traffic light. How it would screw people up. And by the end of it, my friend, she said, you know, Liam, once you get going, you really don't stop, eh? So I hope that answers your question. And the other funny one that I thought of many, but I consider only a couple to be truly worthy of sharing. Another funny one was just all yellows, no other color. It's just always anxiety giving. Slow. Everyone just slow. Both lanes. Slow. Never stop, never go. Slow. Thank you, Sacred Serenity, for an octet of cheer you ups. Radhe, Radhe. And Steve-O, thank you for your rose too. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, John, for your trio of roses. Kirk, you ask, what's my favorite smell? My cats. Something about my cats just smell so good. I don't know how they do it. They eat stinky cat food, and then they lick themselves with the same tongue, and yet you smell their fur and it's like a bouquet of flowers. Sandy smells like an orange Julius drink. I'm thirsty now. But his favorite smell is sage. Every time I buy sage, oh my goodness, he's just so excited to smell it. He doesn't even do anything with it. He just sniffs the sage stick. And then he just starts rolling around. Ah, so happy, good smell. He's full of love. Thank you, this is my show. For your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paper cranes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, G, for your rose too. Jai Sita Rama. No, I've never had water with sage, Laura. I like the sound of that. I'm always interested in trying new combinations of anything, I guess. I was thinking the other day that humans, we are the ultimate combinators. You can describe a human as something that takes two things and makes a third thing out of those two things. You can say that about almost everything that we do. What if we use this instrument and this sound and we make music out of it? What if we take this person and another person and make a baby out of that? What if we take this condiment and this one and that thing and we make this food out of that? Everything humans do. We're just rearranging what's already there in existence to make new things. Mark, you're wondering, where can I get those bells? I accidentally muted myself. These were a gift from my mother from a vintage store. It was very strange. There was this vintage clothing store, but I guess someone who worked there or donated stuff was spiritual, and so they donated a couple of spiritual books and these manjira, which the Hare Krishnas used to chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm not sure where they came from originally, but I'm sure you can find them on the internet. They're known in the English language as hand symbols, given that they are just tiny symbols that you operate with your fingers. And Chris, you are wondering, where are you located? I am located nowhere, and yet everywhere. But mostly on the west coast of Canada. Harriet, you are wondering, are there ways to decrease our awareness at times without us having to close our eyes or ears? That's a lovely question. Naturally, so many beautiful people are so sensitive to life, to sound, to texture, to tone, to light. Thank you, Prez, for your tiny and heart. Me too. Yippee! What we can do with awareness is increase it. So, how can we decrease something? Only by increasing something else relative to it. So we can shift our awareness from the changing world to the changeless spirit, that which you are in every moment. For example, I'll give you an example that you've experienced yourself. Have you ever been watching a video on your phone, but you zone out? You're looking at your phone, there's no doubt about that, but you're not looking at what's happening on the phone. Your phone is a physical object. It has a screen, but the movement that happens on it is an illusion of sorts, because nothing actually moves. Just the lights, the little RGB, red, green, and blue diodes that are in the screen, they're changing in colors. And that changing in colors gives the appearance of movement. Just like how in movies, the appearance of change happened by putting one frame of the film next to the source of the light, and you keep changing which frame of the film that you put in front of the light, and we call that a motion picture. A picture is still, but we're moving the thing we're holding. But it itself is not changing. You can't pick up a film reel and watch the movie. Likewise, when we're surrounded by all this movement of sound and touch and taste and texture of all of our senses, we can become in tune with the background. Like how when you're listening to a song, you can pick out various instruments. Yes, I hear the tambourine. Oh, I can pick out the drum. Oh, I can hear the flute. The whole song is still playing, but you're focused on one thing. Likewise, focus on what is not moving, what's not overstimulating. Always. This present moment is a mixed bag. If you focus on what is always changing, naturally you're going to get overwhelmed, overstimulated by it. But there's also comforts and familiarity. If we can increase our awareness of those things, then relative to the discomfort, our awareness decreases in those areas. Thank you. This is my show for a heart meet. Radhe, Radhe. Bobo, you ask, what to do when one doesn't feel their soul? I'd say you have a good definition of a soul then. Because if you could feel that which feels, then your definition isn't working. If you're looking through a telescope and you see your telescope, something's wrong. If you're using your knife and you end up cutting your knife with your knife, well, that's weird. Likewise, the soul is not something that can be known to our eyes, ears, mouth, nose, or skin. The soul isn't something a part of your experience. It is the experiencer, the one that does the feeling, the seeing, the hearing, the smelling, and the tasting. The very fact that it can't be experienced is what gives experience to all the rest. So if you look within yourself and all you find is emptiness, don't be discouraged, because that means you found yourself as the lap, the space in which all this takes place. Enchantress, you share. Like when you buy a pair of scissors, but you can't open the package without scissors. Right? The old catch-22. Kirk, you ask, what does Vancouver Island sound like? That's the best part. It doesn't. The hustle and bustle of daily life is relatively minimized here. We call it island time. When you show up, you show up. For a whole year, I showed up 15 to 30 minutes late to work. Never once did my boss even acknowledge that I was late. When someone cuts you off while driving, no one honks. It's like we've got nowhere to be. We'll get there when we get there, Thank you, Ron, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Funky Earth, you share that you missed my reaction to the eclipse. You didn't miss it, don't worry. I missed it, actually. I missed my own reaction to it. I was sleeping. I was eclipsed by dreams. In Nulish, I did remove my content. If you would like a full explanation, I've put it in the link tree in my bio under the frequently asked questions page. But to give you a summary, I first took a step away from making videos. I actually used to make a video every day. And then that slowed to once every couple days, then once every few weeks, then every few months, and then there were months at a time where I didn't make videos. And this is because I needed to prioritize my health, physically and mentally, so I took time away to do that. And during that time, I realized that there is no shortage of videos that aim to provoke you, that aim to get you thinking differently. And that was my original goal. I wanted to change the minds of those who watched my videos. And it had an audience to them. Millions of people tuned in. However, I now realize that what is missing is not some way of thinking. It's an acceptance of pure being. And that is what I wish to do now. Not invoke rampant thoughts in your mind, but provoke a kind of deepening in your heart. And I will happily surrender all the videos that I did as an act of principle. For this new understanding. User 568, you ask, which is best to pursue first? Access, concentration, or non-dual open spacious awareness? I am reminded of the Dzogchen Buddhist principle. It's not about concentration nor distraction. Some people say you should have utter focus while meditating. Other people say you should be so dissolved that you are infinitely distracted from everything, that nothing captures your attention. But amidst this duality of focus and distraction, there is a more universal approach. To put it in one word, bhava. This means sentiment or consciousness, but not talking about consciousness as an object, like how we say having consciousness of something, having prema bhav, love consciousness. It is the sentiment which we hold in our awareness. It is not about making your mind into any certain way, as it is a kind of energy that you give the present moment. Whatever you are doing, meditating, eating, sleeping, you do everything fully. You don't have to expand your awareness infinitely, nor contract it to a point. It is less abstract than that, and more pragmatic. Ultimately, the goal is not some state of consciousness, as it is what we make of it. And so I encourage you to make this moment to be alive. Have a vibrancy to it. Feel your heart beating and imagine that heartbeat within everything that you see and do. Thank you, Belladonna, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And John Simon, thank you for your ice cream cone. Hari Om Tat Sat. Leaf green or emerald, asks TB Evil. I believe I had fire red growing up. That was the version of Pokemon on my Game Boy Advanced. Good night, Aquarius lady. May you have meaningful dreams and restful sleep. Emma, you ask, how do you prefer to meditate? The Sanskrit word for meditation is dhyana. It's a good word. Dhyana. My favorite kind of dhyana is adhyana dhyana. Is a prefix that means not. So adhyana is meditationless. So adhyana dhyana means meditationless meditation. Sounds like a paradox. What do? Nothing. Oh, okay. So I sit, close my eyes. No, that's still something. How do you do nothing? Do what you always do. Just shift your perspective from the doer to the knower. Become a witness of life. Does this mean you're walking around with your eyes open, mouth dropped? I am a camera. All I do is observe. No. You still engage emotionally with life, but you become an observer even of your own emotions and your own communications with people. You are just blissfully observing your own life as it unfolds before you. As you wash your dishes, as you set up your bed in the morning, everything you do, you're just watching like a movie while doing it. That kind of dhyana, meditationless meditation is all-pervading, everlasting, and ever fresh. Satchit Ananda. And I like the way you put that, Emma. So meditation can be hidden amongst the mundane. Beautifully put. Yes, indeed. Many people search for an experience in meditation without realizing that the experience you're having right now is the meditation. Dear Mama JJ, you share. Yeah, I wish I had journaled when I was young. I'm in my 50s and have forgotten my 20s and 30s even. Well, you are ageless. But thank you for giving this gift of wisdom that journaling can be a precious thing to reflect back on when we're older. And you have provided that insight for all of us without having to age and look back on the absence of journaling ourselves. So, thank you. But you can journal now, and then when you are in your 70s, 80s, you can look back on your 50s and go, that's right. It is never too late to start. And thank you, user 568, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Hilm Cheryl, for your trio of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Light blue tattoo. You ask, how do you see death and the fear of death? We want to live so badly that we forget that death and the fear of it only takes away from our life. The true death, the true taking away of life, is not in the act of dying. It's in the act of being afraid of dying. So if you're truly afraid of death, then the best thing you can do is to live fully now. If you want to live so bad, then live. And thank you, Shakira, for your heart me. Radhe, oh Radhe. You share that every day is so expensive. And yet, it costs nothing to be conscious. Now, it does cost a lot to have a body. That's for sure. The maintenance of the body, now that goes on. All things finite must be maintained. Only the infinite is beyond maintenance. Fortunately, you are a sliver of that infinite. As a soul, you are priceless. Your existence is without cost. The body, however, now that takes a lot of resources. And hello, Amanda. You share that you're back home after a good grub. I love that word, grub. I'm happy to hear that. Well said, Gregor. All you have is now anyways. Might as well utilize it to the fullest, right? I like that attitude. Might as well. Hello, Chloe. You share that you just finished praying the Isha prayer, the nighttime prayer in Islam. I love that, and thank you for teaching me what the name of that prayer is. I love that. Thank you, Shakira. I did have a great weekend. Hung out with my dad lots. We played pool and chess, and we also went to feed the squirrels and ducks, which you might have seen on my story. Amanda Michelle, you share that you try to have no expectations with the man you love, but can't seem to overlook his inconsideration. You are always welcome to express yourself. And having no expectations, does this mean that we no longer express how we feel when they do something that hurts us? Of course not. See? Always express yourself. That is your God-given gift to share how you are feeling. Now, the real key to having no expectations is not accepting everything that they do to you. Please stand up for yourself. It's that how we express ourselves, we don't expect them to immediately understand. That if we set a boundary, they may cross it. That's not within our control. You are always free to set those boundaries and continue refining them and working with them. You just don't expect to be understood without effort. That kind of expectationless sentiment is the real virtue in relationships. And I am happy to validate your intuition, which is very strong. And thank you, user 623, for your hat and mustache. Radhe, Radhe. And Brink Recovery, thank you for your rose. Jai Sita Rama. Now, Slopped Up Man, you ask, what are my thoughts on reincarnation, brother? Have you ever played D&D or know someone that does play D&D? That's a game where friends come together like in Stranger Things to create characters and play with their characters. Now, during the playing of D&D, you might end up dying. D&D can include the death of your character permanently. But it's not like you are kicked out of playing and you're not allowed to come on Sundays anymore because your character has died. No, you still come. And you're not just watching either. What you do is you create a new character. And the dungeon master ensures that you continue where you left off. You're playing as someone new, but that someone new has the same level as your previous character, roughly the same amount of equipment and money. Likewise, in this game of life that we play, many characters come again and again. And when we die, no, we're not kicked out from experiencing this game, nor do we just watch. We create a new character, and the game master of this universe has ensured that we effectively continue where we left off. We have the same level of experience, and all of our belongings are relatively the same as what we have accumulated before. It is going to be different, of course, and everyone will interact with you differently, but the spirit of consciousness that you are, it cannot go anywhere else upon the death of your body now. Joshua, you ask a good follow-up question then. When do we level up? Well, in D&D we level up often at the end of the session. Likewise, during our day, we accumulate so much experience, but it's that time that we take away during sleep that really does it become practical in the subconscious. Haven't you seen? You could be learning a new skill like juggling, for example, and you just can't figure out the movement, but you try and you sleep on it. That's the figure of speech. You sleep on it, and the next day something clicks. You haven't been practicing since you last stopped. Yet, you leveled up simply by processing what you had gained by experience. In this way, taking time to rest or even during the day, taking time to be bored, sit with your thoughts, maybe meditate. These things can be great times that we take to process our experiences and level up. Did I thank you, Brink Recovery, for another rose that you sent? Anyway, I appreciate you. Hari Om Tat Sat. Joshua, you ask, what's the final level? Well, to push this analogy to its fullest, there is no final level in D&D. You can always return for another campaign. The creative potential of life is infinite. And thank you, Loopy Lane, for your trio of balloons. Radhe, Radhe. I like that sentiment, Chloe. We have a lot of Chloes here tonight. But you share that life is beautiful in the best and worst ways. Beauty can be a positive experience, but sometimes that longing for beauty can be devastating too. And many Amandas, yes, that is also true, Marmander. Light blue. You share that I pronounce very well the R. Your name is Raquel, and some people can't pronounce your name. Well, I hope I pronounced it right. At least the R part. See, the secret is that here in the English-speaking countries, we simulate the real R sound. The real R sound is a retroflex, meaning we flex the tongue backwards to form it. But that's very difficult. So here in the West, we simulate it by instead bridging the tongue up to the same part. Everything is simulated here in the West, including the R sound. Thank you, Ragnhildur, for your rose. Hari Tat Sat. Alfie, you ask, do you gain a connection with your higher self, or are you always connected but have to become awa? I love the place you got cut off. Aware. I gotcha. Awa. There is always more room for deepening our connection. And will there be a time in which your higher self speaks to you directly with English words, and it makes conscious, practical sense? Not in my experience, at least. In my experience, silence is the true word of God. So when we pray and we get no response, that silence actually says a lot. It is deepening our relationship with this silence, rather than dismissing it as the absence of some answer. there is always more room for enlightenment. Thank you, G, for your 2 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Amanda Michelle, you share that it's almost like how you say water in Spanish. Agua. Yeah, I've heard that in Brazil. Like the cute way of saying water is agua. And you know, Sana, just as they say in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. Well, what could be there in the form of sound originally, if not silence? Laura, you ask, what does Radhe Radhe mean? It means salutations to the divine feminine that you are. The very light of the universe. Mermander, you ask if I have any pets. I have 2 kitties named Sandy and Shadow. And they are twins, but with different fathers, which is a funny concept. They were womb mates, born on the same day, yet they have different parents. Their personalities are very different. Their colors are very different. Sandy looks like, well, the sandy one. And Shadow looks like, well, the shadowy one. Sandy, you know, he loves running around, typical orange cat. He loves eating flowers and throwing them up in beautiful arrangements. He truly has the most aesthetically pleasing pukes, because he eats a bunch of different colorful flowers and then he pukes up this bouquet of them. Shadow, on the other hand, you know, he likes to keep to himself. He's a little bigger, he likes to think. Yet at nighttime he becomes so lonely and just needs attention. It's understandable. Mermander, you share that you have an orange cat named Fish. I love that. And a calico named Foxy. Fish and Foxy. It's a good name for a band, I think. Melissa, you ask, what are the benefits of chanting Om? Do you think there are any negative effects on our body? Some mantras have qualifications to them, like how various pieces of modern technology require certification to use. You're not allowed to just go out and purchase a vehicle. You have to know how to operate it. Likewise, mantras can be powerful. If you keep saying to yourself a certain saying, if you aren't prepared how to use it, you might get the wrong impression. Fortunately, Om is not one of these things that require qualification. Anyone can chant it. As you have spelt it out, in Sanskrit it breaks down into three quarters. You might say, 3 quarters? Don't you mean 3/3? No, the Sanskrit is very particular. The first quarter is the akar, the sound of It's the basic sound of human existence. You know, if you're working out, if you experience something pleasurable, if you're scared, doesn't convey anything in particular, but a little bit of everything. It is just the sound that existence makes. It requires no closing of your lips, no nasalization, no teeth placement, tongue placement. It's just a sound. We can modify that sound by contracting our lips, and it becomes oh. And when we finally contract it fully, it becomes It's still the same sound. It's just as we started closing the lips, it went into ooh, and then we closed it fully, it became But there's one extra part that even the people who go by AUM spelling of Om may not know, and that's the fourth quarter. English does not have a letter that can transliterate this. It's the nasalization. What we do is we bridge the tongue up so it completely blocks any kind of resonance in our mouth, and so it goes only through our nose. It's kind of like the NG sound at the end of words like walking. It's only going through the nose. And that happens when we chant Om too. Well, it should happen. Many people don't know this. First we go then ooh, and then we make the NG sound. But our mouth is still closed, so you wouldn't know just by looking at someone, unless you paid close enough attention to how it sounds. So the transition is I don't know if you can hear that. All together. Since the sound represents absolute existence, the M sound nullifies it. It represents destruction. And what is between the and the is the U, that represents the maintenance or the pervading aspect of existence where most of it takes place. And then finally the Chandra Bindu that you see on top of the Om symbol, the crescent moon and the dot, the Chandra and the Bindu, that represents the fourth quarter, the nasalization that returns everything to the formless Nirguna Brahman. Anyone can chant this, and contemplating on these sentiments whilst chanting each quarter of the word can have powerful effects on the mind and body. Did I thank you, Melissa, for your quartet of roses a few minutes ago? Radhe, Radhe. I like the way you've transcribed it, Lily. AHHHOOMMMNNNGGG. Yeah, I think that is phonetically more accurate. Gregor, you ask, does Nirguna Brahman mean before creation? Excellent question. Linguistically, Nirguna means nir, not. Guna means form, so formless. The bra, that represents all-pervasiveness, expansion, and the man just encapsulates it into an object. So Brahman means that which is all-pervasive. So Nirguna Brahman means the formless pervasiveness. And when we talk about creation in a timeline, we can put a nothingness before everything. Of course, there has only ever been everythingness. Never was there a time of not. But it does make sense, albeit in a more abstract way, to talk about a nothingness before creation. And that nothingness can be described as Nirguna Brahman. But before does not necessarily mean in relation to time. We could say, look on my bookshelf. Do you see that Geronimo Stilton is before Goodnight Moon? This does not refer to time, as it does refer to the order upon which we see them first. Likewise, we should bring our attention in spiritual pursuits first to the formless. This is the meeting point of everything. Coming to this nothingness, understanding it as kind of the ultimate object. That is where spirituality begins, so to speak, in Nirguna Brahman. Now, can we see your bookshelf? I don't think you can actually see it from here. I was just saying that for the, for the effect. And thank you, Metatrip, for your rose a moment ago. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Melissa, for another rose too. Nora, you ask, what to tell a friend that's stressed that I like them too much when I just tried to love everyone fully? Now, two people could be served the same plate of food, but the first person says, it's too hot. And the second person says, it's perfect. Does this mean that the temperature varied from one person to the next? No. It's the temperature tolerance of these two people which differs. Likewise, if someone tells you that you like them too much, that says nothing about you and everything about themselves. That their tolerance for being liked is much lower than your ability to like. However, we should respect the limits of people's abilities to receive love. Consider, for example, let me just restart my background music. An abused puppy. We can't force that puppy to receive our love too quickly, because it'll get overwhelmed and push us away, and that makes trust so much more difficult. We have to start small when building trust with an abused puppy, and then the ability for them to receive your love in fullest comes much later down the line when they're healthier and more open. The same is true for us people, if we have been abused, then our ability to receive love can be overstimulated very easily. And so it is important to respect those boundaries whilst also encouraging them to be more open to what is ultimately beneficial to them without expectations. But that's a beautiful question, Nora. Thank you, G, for your rose. And thank you, Asma, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Laura, you ask, Yam, how do I get out of fear and learn that it would be good for me, but I don't know that? That takes faith, and you can start by externalizing it and consider a time where you were afraid before, but it was good for you. Like if you've ever been ziplining, there's that initial fear of letting go, but afterwards you want to do it again. Same is true for lots of experiences like skydiving or scuba diving, or even just jumping off a diving board. That act of letting go is going to be initially fearful. It's in hindsight that we are able to see that the challenge ultimately expanded our sense of self. So looking back in your past and seeing with confidence how much you have grown from other difficult things, that can help you see that in the present adversity, there is something there too, which will create growth in you as well. Raid Hanun al-Sabah, you ask, is God one? It's a good question. Consider walking into one of those mazes that are at theme parks. Do you know of these where all the walls are made of mirrors and you lose track of what's a wall and what's not very quickly, and you end up running into the mirror? When you're in this maze, it might seem like there's a million different versions of yourself. There was really only one the whole time. It's just reflected in many different ways. Likewise, the source is one, but it's experienced by the many. So in that way, it's also multifaceted, but not because its nature is divided, but because the way it's expressing itself, now that is just as infinite as it is in other ways. And I like the way you put that, Amanda. You share that you're learning that you are alone, not lonely, happy in my own space. Radhe, Radhe. What a beautiful realization that is. There is a difference from being alone and being lonely. Just as there is a difference between having an empty stomach and being hungry. When we feel our stomach is empty, I need to fill it. But hunger is a different kind of sensation. Hunger is when you should eat, when your body signals, I need food. But notice that oftentimes on an empty stomach, it's a different sensation than that of hunger. It's a kind of lightness, a very potent kind of lightness. Those who have experienced fasting know what that's like. Yes, your energy is lower, but the vibrancy of life is that much higher. And that's a lovely way of putting it, fellow Amanda, that you love your solitude. Yes. Thank you, Sunshine Rose, for your rose. Thank you for lighting up my life, just as the sunshine does. Radhe, Radhe. Asma, you shared that today is the last day of Ramadan. You fasted the whole month, from sunrise to sunset. Well done. I learned yesterday that the Burj Khalifa is so tall that people have to break their fast at different times depending on what floor you're on in the Burj Khalifa. Because at the ground floor, the sun might have appeared to have set, but on the top floor you can still see the sun. So you could be in the same place in the world, same time zone, but for those at the top of the Burj Khalifa, Ramadan lasts a little longer. It could also work the other way around, I suppose. If you want to just sneak in a couple extra snacks, you just go to the top floor of the Burj Khalifa. And then you come down after Ramadan has begun. And now you have successfully fasted according to scripture. But of course, it's not about abiding by the rules literally. It's about the bhav, the sentiments, reason why we do things. I love the way you put that, dirty hippie gypsy mom. In the same building, but with different views. Ah, refreshing. Okay, gift, you ask. What is the essence of being alive? Why creation? Now that is the greatest question. Because there didn't have to be. End of sentence. There could have not been. And yet there is. And that is the glory of God. You might say, how did religion get into this? I'm not talking about an assumption that it was a choice. See, there's something that I feel God wants us to know that is painfully obvious, yet somehow goes over our heads. Consider, for example, the life of Jesus Christ. That his mother famously gave birth miraculously. There was no seed, and yet he was born of his own nature. What is the significance of this? The significance of this is that the same is true for the source of existence. Whatever it was, it had no cause. It came of its own accord. From the void, everything arose. This is the miracle. That Mother Nature exists without a father. The Holy Father exists only in spirit. That is the glory of God. The miracle of something from nothing. The point is not to worship. The point is not to revere this, but to bask in that miracle and feel how mysterious it all is. And you know, there's no words that can put it into a logical form. There just is. And wow. Oh my God. Wow. All right. We have surpassed 3 hours of this nonsense. Me, not you. I would love to ask you a question before we end our live today. I would love to hear from you. How do you like to express yourself? Here, the universe, the source of which likes to express itself through all of you. But how do you like to express yourself? Music, says Gregor. That's an excellent answer. Something about vibration, rhythm, the relative change. Lily agrees to that sentiment. Ah, I see. You were having a conversation, but I am sure Lily also enjoys music as a form of self-expression. Amanda McCormack, you share that you like to express yourself with your smile every day and by laughter. Beautifully put. Frequency, says Dirty Hippie Gypsy Mom. Tadastu. And Laura, you share that you express by saying how you feel and also music. Good, good. By cooking, dear Mama JJ asks. Sorry, shares. But you know, makes me wonder, is cooking a question? Who's gonna eat me? The food yells. Art in many forms, says Isabella. Yes. In writing stories, says Lebani Hong. I love that. Derry, you share that you say silly things that hopefully is also funny. Well said. Mermander, you share that you express yourself spending time caring for plants and being in nature. I love that. Especially the being in nature. You know, it sounds like an absence, and yet there is a presence. Julie, you like writing too? Sam, you say through art and appearance. Good. Writing as well, says Sar Indigo. By gardening, says Dear Mama Cheche. I love that. Just as Mother Nature does. Dr. Richa, you share that you like to express yourself by listening to understand. That's very profound. Shakira, you share that honestly you don't know. You want to say words or singing or music, but you've been silent. So maybe texting. There is certainly a form of self-expression. And even our texting choices, from the emojis we choose, to whether we like to capitalize the first letter or not. You know, it's a little more casual if I do lowercase. Yes, dear Mama JJ. Thank you for echoing their words. Allow me to scroll up. Awaken Haven, you are asking for any advice for someone with addiction to alcohol. It's a very powerful question, given that alcohol can be such a binding vice. But I thank you everyone else for answering my question of the day. I appreciate all the ways in which you express yourself. Before we turn to our reading of the day, I will attend to this last question. I have found in my life, knowing many alcoholics, they all seem to have one thing in common, and it's that they all have beautiful minds. Such devastatingly beautiful minds that they need to dull it in order to not get overwhelmed by it. Alcoholics tend to love so deeply, and they get lost in their own love that they almost have to distract themselves from it by numbing their senses. If someone is cutting themselves with a knife, accidentally, they are in the kitchen and the knife keeps slipping and they keep walking out with bleeding hands. Of course, you can come in there with a file and just drag the knife against the file perpendicularly. And now that you've effectively made a butter knife, they're not going to cut themselves anymore. They're also not going to cut much of anything at all, because you've now minimized the whole purpose of a knife. Of course, we would never do this, because the proper way to walk out of the kitchen without having bleeding hands is simply to have a steady hand. If you have a steady hand, doesn't matter how sharp the knife is, even if you're working with a surgeon's scalpel, some people have such sharp minds they end up cutting themselves with it. And yet in this case, we think the solution is to dull our own mind so that we don't end up cutting ourselves or anyone. When the real solution is to maintain a steady intellect. With a steady intellect, this mind can be as sharp as you want, and you'll never get hurt. What does that mean? Well, for an alcoholic, one whose heart is so terribly open to life, that means feeling all the feelings you don't want to do, but inwardly being unmoved by them. You experience the weight of the world. With a steady intellect, you do not choose to take that on. You see all of the things in your past that have made you who you are today. And with a steady intellect, you choose to forgive yourself. Having this firmness, this resolution of intellect, this can turn the most rampant of minds into a nice, orderly arrangement of thoughts. And with that, you don't have to dull the blade anymore. You have your steady hand, and you can enjoy the full splendor of having a nice tool at your disposal. You can cut all the cucumbers, carrots, pineapples, whatever you want. It becomes effortless. Then your sharpness becomes a virtue. So there is a funny, ironic balance in the role of an alcoholic, which is to become vulnerable to life, and yet be stoic in the face of all that feeling. You don't have to minimize that feeling, but have unconditional acceptance of it. Now, thank you, Julie Bean, for your rose a few minutes ago. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your heart me team bracelet. And cheer you up too, Radhe Radhe. And thank you for a fire as well. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I agree, Julie. I think all of us have a lot to learn from these courageous people too, that we might label as alcoholics, but are so beautifully human. Thank you, Sar Indigo, for another 7 and 14 roses. Jai Sita Rama. And Mermander, thank you for your good night. Radhe Radhe. So before we go, let us continue with our introduction through reading Ramana Maharishi's spiritual teachings. The foreword which we are reading is by Carl Jung, which is a very famous psychologist, psychoanalyst. He popularized the idea of the collective unconscious, that is Jung. So he has very graciously provided a foreword to this book. The Eastern nations are threatened by a quick disintegration disintegration of their spiritual goods, and what comes into their place cannot always be considered to belong to the best of the Western mind. Therefore, one may look upon the sages like Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Ramana as modern prophets. They not only remind us of the thousands of years old spiritual culture of India, but also directly embody it. Their life and teachings form an impressive warning not to forget the demand of the soul in all the new things of Western civilization, and their materialistic, technical, and commercial concerns of the world. The breathless impulse to obtain and possess in the political, social, and intellectual fields, which is rummaging the apparent unappeasable passion in the soul of the Westerner, is also spreading continuously in the East, and threatens to bear consequences not yet to be overlooked. Not only in India, but also in China, much has already been lost in which once the life of the soul lived and flourished. The externalization culture of the West can truly clear away many evils, the destruction of which seems to be very desirable and advantageous. But, as experience has shown, this progress is bought too dearly with a loss of spiritual culture. It is undoubtedly more comfortable to dwell in a well-ordered and hygienically furnished house, but that does not answer the question as to who the dweller in this house is, and whether their soul enjoys a similar state of order and purity, that is, like that of the house serving for external life. Once humanity is set to the pursuit of external things, they are never satisfied, as experience shows, with the mere necessities of life, but always strives after more and more, which, true to their prejudices, they always seek in external things. They forget entirely that in spite of all external success, inwardly they remain always the same, and therefore complains of their poverty when they own only one motor car instead of two like others around them. Certainly, the external life of us can bear many improvements and beautifications, but they lose their many significances to the extent to which the inner man or woman cannot keep up with them. The provision with all quote-unquote necessities is, without a doubt, a source of happiness which is not to be underestimated. But above and beyond it, the inner person raises their calm, which cannot be satisfied by any external goods. And the less this voice is heard in the hunt for the wonderful things of this world, the more the inner person becomes a source of inexplicable bad luck and understandable unhappiness in the midst of conditions of life from which one would expect something quite different. You can always rely on Jung for having sentences which seem to go on forever. The externalization leads to an incurable suffering, because nobody can understand how one could suffer because of one's own nature. Nobody is surprised at their own insatiability, but looks upon it as their birthright. They do not realize that the one-sidedness of the diet of their soul ultimately leads to the most serious disturbances of balance. It is this which forms the illness of the Westerner, and they do not rest till they have infected the whole world with their greedy restlessness. The wisdom and mysticism of the East have, therefore, a very great deal to tell us, provided they speak in their own imitatable speech. They should remind us of what we possess in our own culture of similar things, and have already forgotten, and direct our attention to that which we put aside as unimportant, namely, the destiny of our inner person. The life and teachings of Sri Ramana Maharishi are important not only for the Indian but also the Westerner. Not only do they form a record of great human interest, but also a warning message to humanity, which threatens to lose itself in the chaos of its unconsciousness and lack of self-control. By Carl Jung. This foreword by Carl Jung was originally published as the foreword to Heinrich Zimmer's Der Weg zum Selbst, and was translated by R.F.C. Hull in Volume 11 of the Collected Works of Carl Jung, used by permission of the Princeton University Press, publishers of the Bullington series. Okay. Just a formal note. Yeah. Well, as you can see, a wonderful Western mind such as Carl Jung speaks very highly of the teachings of Ramana Maharishi. And of course, it is the Western trademark to twist it into something we should be afraid of if we don't listen. But that's just a sign of respect in our culture. Now, there's lots of good wisdom here in this book, which we will practically start tomorrow. But there's also a short biographical sketch of who Ramana Maharishi is, which is just 2 pages. And then we'll get on with Who Am I? Nan Yar tomorrow. So I thank you all for attending our Sangha, our association. I am very grateful for all of you, and I appreciate that you listened whilst I read that short section, and allow me to minimize the book cover and extend my gratitude to those who sent a gift whilst I read. Thank you, Kona Girl, for your rose. Radhe Radhe. And Sacred Serenity, thank you for your heart me, your octet of team bracelets, and another 8 roses. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Mermander. I will give a little forehead kiss for both of my kitties on all of your behalf. I will be uploading this live stream to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel in case, when you asked the question, you couldn't quite make out something I said, so it's there for you. And although you don't get the immediacy of a response, you're welcome to interact with a static form. You can actually get me to stop talking. You can get me to re-say something I said, or you can get me to skip to the point when you watch the recording of it on YouTube. And there's no distracting chat either. That is linked at the first link in the link tree in my bio. Fat Cat Weaves, you shared that you're sick today, so it's extra nice to hear me. Oh, thank you. All my best wishes for you. Sometimes being sick can feel liberating in some ways. It's very humbling. I hope you find that peace during it. Now, just after I finish this recording, I'm going to upload a new video on my ASMR channel as soon as possible. It's strictly speaking not an ASMR, but it is a relaxing video. It's a video where I talk you down from an anxiety attack. So if you ever struggle with that or know someone that does struggle, maybe you could even just save it or share it, if not watch it yourself. Obviously, I don't expect you all to be having an anxiety attack right now, so you don't need to go and watch it after. But just know that that's there for you. This was a recommendation from one of our viewers, and I couldn't say no to that opportunity, because I know, having gone through so many anxiety attacks myself, the kind of things that actually genuinely helped during that. So it's a 30-minute video talking you through everything that you might want to hear during an existential crisis, anxiety or panic attack, that kind of instability of mind. It's there for you. I hope you I hope it, makes itself available to you in the way that you need. Thank you, G, for your pair of roses. And Michelle, thank you for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Yes, the video that talking you down from an anxiety attack, that will be on my ASMR channel, Yamsox ASMR. I just need to upload it. And thank you to my lovely moderators who help keep this place relatively peaceful while allowing the drama of life to unfold as it always does. The only other thing I wanted to mention before I go is that if ever you wanted something in return for your generosity, besides these digital tokens that TikTok provides, I do have a toque which has our mascot on it that says yippee. And I felt a little proud today when my sister said, "Oh, that's cool, where'd you get that?" And I said, "From me." It's in the link tree in my bio. There's also Yamsox. These are socks with yams on them. They're pretty cute. I like them, and these are all good quality clothes. It helps me in that I'm currently saving up for a trip to India to expand my horizons, to just get me out of my comfort zone, go leave the nest. Now I appreciate all of your presence here. Thank you, and thank you, Bobby Sue, for your tiny and Rose. Yippee! It is a dad joke in sock form. Exactly. I appreciate that you see the humor in it. Alright, with further ado, I'll be signing off. So, Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shama, Radhe Shama, Shama Shama, Radhe Radhe. May you all have a beautiful rest of your present moment.